Chapter 420 Underground. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sudden change put everyone on edge. They weren't afraid of other people, but the unknown still filled them with dread. Since the apocalypse, more and more things defied explanation. It even reminded Zhang Yi of something he'd read in history books. In times of great upheaval, strange phenomena emerge. The group left the vehicles behind, carefully following the dense footprints. The wind and snow were fierce, and everyone was tense. They were all likely picturing those corpses shuffling forward, mimicking the living. They walked for what felt like forever until the footprints vanished, but no bodies appeared. This only strengthened their belief that the corpses had walked this far on their own. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. Let's drive from here. Looks like they went a long way last night. Even in their combat gear, the cold was starting to bite. Zhang Yi got into the car and cautiously followed the direction of the footprints. After driving for several minutes, they reached the spot where the tracks disappeared. Zhang Yi and the others piled out of the car and hurried ahead. Then they saw it, a massive, yawning cave in the snow. The dark pit seemed bottomless, devoid of light, radiating a terrifying aura that felt predatory. Gulp. Zhang Yi swallowed hard and took a few steps back. What the hell is that? Why did the corpses come here? Could there be someone controlling them? Liang Yu shuddered. Imagine someone controlling thousands of corpses over that distance. It's too terrifying. Silence fell again. Since the Ice Age began, over 10 million people had perished in Tianhai city. If someone could control that many corpses, they could wipe out anyone. Fatty Sue's lips trembled. Could it be a zombie outbreak? He'd seen enough zombie movies to be terrified of a horde. Zhang Yi shook his head. I hope that's the case. He glanced at Fatty Sue and smirked. You don't think real zombies would pose much of a threat to us now, do you? He could take down living people. A bunch of slow, brain-dead zombies wouldn't stand a chance against them. Besides, it doesn't make sense. At these temperatures, the corpses should be frozen solid. How could they walk like normal people? And those footprints were all over the place, not like they were hopping around. Fatty Sue nodded. Yeah, if we had zombies hopping around in this cold, that would be something else. Everyone stood around the cave, clueless. The unknown was always the scariest thing. Right now, Zhang Yi was hoping for zombies. Anything was better than some inexplicable, unnatural force. As they were talking, Uncle Yu scanned the area and suddenly said, this place feels familiar. I think, it's a station. Huh? What station? Everyone looked at him, curious. Uncle Yu gazed around, piecing together the landmarks. I know where this is. I lived in this neighborhood, Tsiyu. And this is the Tsiyu subway station. Everyone stared at the ground. In an instant, it clicked for Zhang Yi. I get it. They went through the station and into the subway tunnel, right? The subway was underground, buried under the snow. It looked like a deep cave. Liang Yu frowned. If that's the case, is something in the subway controlling those corpses? Zhang Yi stroked his chin, saying nothing. After the apocalypse, everyone was just trying to survive. Zhang Yi wouldn't be surprised if there were people living in the subway. Tianhai City's subway system was vast, with stations everywhere. It was practically a second city beneath the surface. After the disaster, people would have sought shelter there. Some probably got trapped when the blizzard hit, some might still be alive. Zhang Yi was certain, something or someone was stirring things up down there. But he couldn't figure out why they needed so many corpses. Zhang Yi, what do we do about this? Uncle Yu looked at him, concerned. If someone can control dead bodies, it's probably more than 1,000. It could be a huge number. If they become our enemy, we're in trouble. Fatty Sue said, should we blow this place up? Stop them from coming out and attacking us? Uncle Yu rolled his eyes. Are you crazy? Do you know how big the subway network is in Tianhai City? You can't blow up the whole thing. You blow up one exit, they'll just pop up somewhere else a few kilometers away. It'll just alert them. Fatty Sue looked worried. Just thinking about all those living dead a few kilometers away gives me the creeps. Zhang Yi spoke up. Leave them alone for now. We don't have any beef with them, so don't go looking for trouble. Stay away from this place from now on, and keep everyone else away too. Zhang Yi gestured for everyone to retreat. There could be serious dangers lurking in the subway. He wasn't about to send anyone down there unless he had to. So, we just let this thing stay unknown? Liang Yu asked, frowning. A strange smile crept across Zhang Yi's face. Yep, just let it be. When the crap hits the fan, it won't be our problem. As Uncle Yu said, Tianhai City subway stretched everywhere, covering the entire city. Yunk Manor was on the edge of town, only the Songzhuangcicue line was nearby. If things went south, they could just destroy it, but the other forces' territories had much more complicated subway lines. If something weird broke out, they would be the first to get hit. Let's go. Forget about it. Zhang Yi backed away slowly, putting several meters between himself and the subway entrance before turning and climbing back into the car. The others were still worried, but they weren't about to risk an investigation. They reluctantly followed Zhang Yi back at the shelter. They explained the situation to everyone and tried to reassure them. Don't worry, we're safe inside the shelter. Even if there are zombies or something, we can handle them. We're not even afraid of people. Why would we be afraid of corpses? Their shelter's firepower was insane. With so many gifted people, they could easily weather a zombie outbreak. Everyone felt relieved. They wouldn't forget what they'd heard, but they weren't quite as on edge. Still, Zhang Yi had everyone reinforce the outer defenses. Most of their weapons had been lost in the last battle, but they still had some left. It was important to have a buffer zone in case of a sudden attack. Chapter 421 The Expansion of the Snow Worship Cult. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Life in the shelter had settled into a stable routine. Meanwhile, other forces found themselves in a tense standoff. The snow worship sect aggressively proselytized within the Chaoyu and Yangqing bases, drawing more and more survivors into their fold. Join us in worshipping the snow cult, and you'll have enough food, a safe and stable life, and equality for all. Join us, and you'll escape reincarnation and hell. After death, you'll enter the kingdom of God and experience eternal bliss. Join the snow worship cult, and all your sins will be washed away, giving you a fresh start. In the apocalypse, people craved two things above all else. First, basic material needs taken care of. Second, spiritual fulfillment. The snow worship cult's message promised both. As a result, more and more survivors were drawn to their cause. The snow worship cult's influence expanded rapidly, almost uncontrollably. One day, a group of ascetics in gray and white robes arrived at Yuelu community. General Zhao Jianhua appeared, leaning on a cane. Amidst the wind and snow, only 18 people remained alive in Yuelu community. They had survived this long by using the corpses of the dead and food grown through Li Jian's sacrifice ability. The price for obtaining the ice soul, needed to awaken superpowers, was for everyone to join the snow worship cult. When the group arrived, Li Jian immediately gathered everyone to greet them. Greetings. Li Jian said, his eyes filled with pious excitement. Behind him, his wife and 16-year-old son stared at the ascetics with curiosity. The last time this group came, they only dealt with Li Jian. After giving him the ice soul, they left quickly. Back then, this was still Shishan-based territory, and they didn't dare linger or preach openly. But now that the three bases had been eliminated or weakened, they no longer needed to be secretive. The lead ascetic looked at Li Jian and smiled. Li Jian, it seems you're putting the snow god's gift to good use. Li Jian bowed. Praise the snow god, praise the almighty leader. Thank you for blessing me and allowing us to survive. The leader smiled and nodded, his gaze briefly lingering on Li Jian's son, Li Kale. Now, I have good news. The leader has granted you permission to come to Tianfeng district and live among us. Li Jian and the others looked confused. Tianfeng district? It wasn't far, but they were used to Yuelu district. Having found a way to survive, they were hesitant to change things. In the apocalypse, the unknown was terrifying. The leader smiled. Don't be afraid. It's a paradise in the end times. All snow worship cult members live there, helping each other and building a community. Soon, it will be a utopia untouched by the apocalypse. You've been chosen to live there. He looked at Li Jian, a smile in his eyes. I told the leader about you, Li Jian. She admires your ability and believes it's essential to the snow worship cult. When you arrive, you and your family will receive special treatment. Li Jian was stunned. He couldn't believe it. To be recognized by the leader herself was an incredible honor. Everyone in Building 18 already saw the snow worship cult as a sacred haven. After all, they had survived this long because the leader had allowed Li Jian to awaken his powers. Li Jian immediately knelt at the leader's feet. Praise the great snow god, praise the leader. I, Li Jian, am ready to serve the snow worship cult with all my strength. The leader was pleased. Rise, child. Gather your family and belongings and follow me to the snow worship cult's camp. Happily, they packed up their clothes and food. Then, the 50-plus survivors of the building followed the ascetics towards the snow worship sect. Filled with hope, the journey from Yuelu community to the cathedral in Tianhai district was long. But the dream of a better future kept them going. Despite the wind and snow, the snow worship sect was flourishing, with more and more people joining. Priests and priestesses kept order, distributing food and clothing to new members and teaching them the sect's doctrines. When Li Jian and the others arrived, they saw people eating a strange red fruit. It was bigger than a fist, crystal clear, but with a blood-red hue. But Li Jian didn't dwell on it. He and his family were too excited about joining Utopia. As they arrived, nuns greeted them. The leader turned to Li Jian. Li Jian, come with me. The leader wishes to see you personally. Li Jian was awestruck, but he remembered his wife and son. What about them? The leader smiled. Don't worry, they'll be taken care of. Li Jian relaxed. Even his wife, Zhang Jianfang, urged him on. It's an honor to be summoned by the leader. Go, we'll wait here. Li Jian nodded and, amidst envious glances, followed the ascetic toward the massive church. The others were led away by smiling nuns. Li Jian pushed open the church doors and stepped inside, filled with reverence. Though the sky was cloudy outside, a holy light seemed to fill the church. The light was dim, but the area around the altar was bright. He saw a woman in a white monk's robe standing with her back to him, her face piously raised. Strangely, she was worshipping Jesus Christ on the cross. Sensing his confusion, the leader coughed. God is everywhere and takes many forms, reflecting the hearts of believers. Don't worry about such details. Li Jian quickly said, yes, I understand. Of course, he understood. This was St. John's Cathedral, the center of Christianity in Tianhai City. The snow worship sect had taken it over as headquarters and hadn't yet built new statues. They just claimed their theology and Christianity came from the same source, but Li Jian was smart enough not to point that out. He was grateful for the snow worship cult's kindness, even if he didn't believe in gods. Some things were best left unsaid. Chapter 422 means harvest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yuan Kongye prayed with fervent devotion before the cross as the leader of the snow worship sect. Her obsession with gods was unparalleled. She was utterly convinced of the existence of gods, Jesus Christ, Sakyamuni, Zeus, Yuan Tianzuan, Odin. She saw them all as humanity's attempts to grasp the Creator. If there were no gods, how could she explain the miracle that had befallen her? So, every day, she prayed with absolute devotion. The most ardent of apostles. The world is blanketed in white, the snow untouched. That we are born of this earth, our souls descend from above. The sun and moon light our way, the snow's purity cleanses our souls. That we give our bodies to the earth's cold wind. That we thank God for the miracles bestowed upon the land of the snow God's people. May our souls remain forever strong. That we wish to share joy with our kin. That we wish to share sorrow with them. May the people of the snow worship sect be forever praised. Let us bear witness with our souls and our bodies. That night, Yuan Kong chanted the ancient prayers. De Ling and Li Jian waited in the distance for the sacred ceremony to conclude. Finally, Yuan Kongye finished her prayer. She turned, her cold gaze settling on Li Jian. Li Jian was taken aback by Yuan Kongye's youth. The founder of the first sect in this apocalypse was a girl barely 20 years old. He quickly lowered his head. Greetings, leader. I am Li Jian, spared by your grace. Yuan Kongye walked towards Li Jian. I know about you. The great decree tells me that you are a beacon of hope, blessed with the power of the harvest. Yuan Kongye's voice held a captivating power. Li Jian felt an overwhelming urge to worship her. Li Jian, look up. Li Jian lifted his head, surprised. He met Yuan Kongye's gaze and felt everything else fade away, only her eyes remained, filling his vision, inspiring awe and an intoxicating sense of devotion. Her every word etched itself into his mind. From this day forward, you are a priest of the snow worship sect. Your arrival signals a bountiful harvest. The gods led you here, and you have your own purpose to fulfill. Li Jian felt a surge of excitement. He was chosen. He had a special mission. I would give everything for the snow worship cult, Li Jian declared. Yuan Kongye nodded, pleased. Good. Come with me. She turned and walked toward the back of the church. Li Jian was lost, Yuan Kongye was all he saw, and he knew he had to follow her. They left the church and headed towards a dilapidated building nearby. As Li Jian regained his senses, his eyes widened with awe. He stood within the structure, which resembled more of a ravine. A massive plant, 5 or 6 meters thick, dominated the space. Its black bark was cracked, revealing a crimson hue. The trunk pulsed gently, as if breathing. Branches and vines covered the building, leaves curled up in strange cocoons, as if something lay hidden within. Li Jian was stunned. He'd never seen such a bizarre, gigantic plant. Yuan Kongye, standing before it, said, "This is the sacred tree of the snow worship cult. Its roots reach hundreds of meters into the earth to draw sustenance and bear fruit. Its fruit is our most vital food source." Yuan Kongye raised her hand. A vine lowered from the tree's canopy, and a red fruit detached and fell into her palm. This plant was intelligent. Li Jian realized the origin of the red fruits he had seen. Yuan Kongye approached him and offered the fruit. She smiled slightly. "This is our hope for survival. Would you like to try it?" Li Jian nodded and took the fruit. Instantly, he inhaled an otherworldly fragrance that overwhelmed him. He grabbed the fruit and devoured it. A viscous, blood-like liquid trickled from his mouth. Afterward, he felt his body surge with strength. His hunger and cold vanished. Yuan Kongye told Li Jian, "Priestly, your mission is to cultivate this sacred tree, to help it grow strong. Only then can we sustain more believers." Li Jian nodded vigorously. "Yes, I will obey, leader." He approached the tree, drew a dagger, and sliced his finger. Despite the shallow cut, his blood flowed freely. The sacred tree greedily absorbed each drop, the strange red light intensifying. Yuan Kongye stopped the bleeding, using her gift to heal him. "From now on, you will nourish the sacred tree with your blood every day. This is your sacred duty." Li Jian nodded, his eyes gleaming with dedication, as if this had become his life's purpose. Half a month passed quickly. Zhang Yi's shelter rebuilt the ice and snow defenses. With no new threats, everyone relaxed and enjoyed life. With ample food, pleasant temperatures, and entertainment, they were content. But Zhang Yi never forgot the reality of their situation. He dedicated several hours each day to kung fu training with Liang Yu. Liang Yu was more mature, less reserved, even lecturing Zhang Yi during training, though occasional physical contact still brought a blush to her face. Outside the shelter, the world was turbulent. The power of the two major bases, Chaoyu and Yangsheng, had diminished significantly. They couldn't stop the snow worship cult spread, and even smaller armed factions were emerging within their territories. Tianhai city was under the control of 5 major powers, none of whom had complete control. Numerous underground groups remained. At any sign of weakness from above, they would seize the opportunity. After all, the prime resource locations were held by the major powers. Yangsheng base and Chaoyu base were forced to prioritize restoring order within their own borders. The 5 major powers reached an uneasy agreement, recognizing each other's territorial claims. No one wanted another major conflict unless absolutely necessary. Chapter 423 Corpse. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhang Yiju's serious attitude kept everyone on their toes at the shelter. Uncle Yu practiced fighting and shooting daily. Yang Mi kept whipping up more superpowered food for Zhang Yi to stash in his dimension. Even the perpetually lazy Fatty Su got dragged out by Zhang Yi to hone his skills. Everyone had different powers, and while they might have been simple at first, there was tons of room to grow. Take Zhang Yi, for example. He'd picked up a whole arsenal of abilities from different dimensions, and he was still pushing himself, trying to max out his spatial powers. Fatty Su was starting to feel the pressure, especially after the Battle of the Five Armies. Seeing Wei Dinghai's souped-up ice powers, Snow Lord, made him realize he needed to step up his game. He was desperate to get stronger so he wouldn't hold back the sanctuary. After all, Zhang Yi wasn't running a charity for the superpowered challenged, and something else was bugging Fatty Su even more. He found out that Liang Yu could also swallow people whole. Before, only Zhang Yi and Huahua could do that around here. Neither he nor Uncle Yu thought much of it, but now that Liang Yu could do it too, it showed that some superpowered folks were just plain more gifted than others, and he and Uncle Yu were on the low end of the scale. So Fatty Su went into overdrive, trying to boost his combat skills, but no matter how hard he trained, he just wasn't seeing major results. His go-to moves were still just ice spikes, ice walls, and snow blasts. They could control a space, sure, but they didn't do much damage to other superpowered people. In a one-on-one fight, he couldn't think of anyone he could beat. This ain't gonna cut it. I'm just winging it every time. Seeing Fatty Su busting his butt, Zhang Yi walked over to drop some knowledge. The more you use your powers, the better you get at them. But brains are key. He tapped his head. Think of your powers as weapons. You gotta sharpen the weapon, sure, but you also need the brains to wield it. A master throwing pebbles can do more damage than some chump with a throwing star. Zhang Yi's words hit Fatty Su like a light bulb going off. I've been too focused on brute strength. But when the boss took down Ling Feng, it wasn't just about power, it was about smarts. I can't just swallow other people's abilities, so I've got a limit. But if I can max out what I've got, maybe that's enough. With this new perspective, things clicked for Fatty Su. Time flew by, and it was March. The world should have been waking up, but it was still freezing. But because Blue Star was slowly approaching its closest point to the sun, the temperature did rise slightly. Even that little bit of warmth wasn't enough to ignore the cold outside. Zhang Yi and Fatty Su had played their way through countless hell-level video games. The mahjong table at home had been fixed a bunch of times from overuse. Luckily, they had Lu Karen, the mechanical genius, to handle that. Everything seemed so peaceful, like the days would just keep drifting by forever. But that's the funny thing about life, you never know what's coming next. The Shishan base was in ruins, no one could survive in that dusty wasteland. Zhang Yi had already looted everything of value. After the Battle of the Five Armies, no one else dared to go near it, so it became a dead zone. But then, the thick, dark green iron door of the fourth life storage suddenly started shaking like crazy. It was like some huge, mysterious force was hammering at it. A few dull, violent hits later, and the heavy bolts snapped clean off. In the dark space, green lights flickered on, and a nasty, rotten smell filled the air. The horde of corpses, dressed in rags and with empty eyes, slowly poured out of the gate. It was like opening a can of sardines that had expired years ago. Zombies swarmed out, filling the passage. As if something was calling to them, they started shuffling towards the exit of the Shishan base. It didn't take them long to clear the rubble blocking the entrance. The wind and snow raged outside, and zombies poured out of the Shishan base by the thousands, heading southeast. Back at the shelter, Zhang Yi was chilling on the couch, drinking coffee and chatting with Yang Xinxin. She had a laptop on her lap and was giving Zhang Yi a rundown of the other four factions. For the past month or so, she'd been hacking into their networks, quietly watching their every move. Compared to the Shishan base, their security was a joke, barely better than some small-town business back in the day. The Qingpei base and the Snow Worship sect were the worst. They didn't even have a dedicated IT guy. They were relying on cell phones and satellite phones to communicate. Easy pickings for Yang Xinxin. The Chaoyu base and Yangqing base had some kind of intranet for their core operations that she couldn't fully crack, but even so, Zhang Yi was getting the intel he needed. Qingpei base is still playing it safe, no plans to expand, just chilling in their territory. Chaoyu base is licking its wounds after the Battle of the Five Armies. Wei Dinghai is laid up with injuries, and they're pulling back to defend. Some other armed groups are starting to pop up in their territory. Yangqing base is still running a tight ship, putting down a few rebellions. As for the snow worship cult, they're the big winners. Their numbers are exploding, maybe tens of thousands of followers now. Zhang Yi was sprawled on the couch, wearing cotton pajamas, half listening to Yang Xinxin's report, nothing too surprising, except that last part about the snow worship cult. They're signing up followers like crazy. How are they feeding them all? Old people, kids, men, women, not everyone can be a fighter or worker. More people doesn't always mean better, it can mean a bigger headache. Even the other factions with more supplies are struggling to feed everyone. Zhang Yi frowned, trying to figure it out. Maybe Yuan Kongye really thinks he's their savior. Yang Xinxin looked at Zhang Yi and said, there's another possibility. Oh. Spill the beans. Zhang Yi looked intrigued. Yang Xinxin explained calmly, this is the end of the world, even worse than any war zone. The whole system is changing. You just want to live in peace, but not everyone's wired that way. Yang Xinxin paused, then said, you know about the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, right? Zhang Yi nodded. Of course. They made a big splash back in the day. Yang Xinxin chuckled and said, they built a whole kingdom for more than a decade based on some goofy religious cult. They just took advantage of the chaos and the people's misery. The snow worship cult could be doing the same thing. They could become the biggest power in Tianhai city without even firing a shot. Once they have enough followers and spread their teachings, even the 3 bases, maybe even us, could get sucked in. Yang Xinxin concluded, someone in the snow worship cult wants to be a god. Zhang Yi rolled his eyes and grinned. Sounds like a joke. Yang Xinxin said seriously, trust me, it's no joke. When people are desperate, they'll grab any lifeline. Even if the people of Tianhai city are educated, they'll still beg for mercy when life and death are on the line. Zhang Yi smiled faintly, he looked out the window and said, I see your point. But times have changed. You can't just win by having a big crowd. Even if they have 10,000 followers, they're no match for the other factions with guns and tanks. Yang Xinxin tilted her head and asked, what if they use Yuan Kongye's blessing to wake up a bunch of superpowered folks? Zhang Yi frowned. That was something to think about, but he still had an answer. Superpowered people are just stronger humans. No need to get all mystical about it. I've met a lot of them, and only a few are truly scary. Zhang Yi said it like it was nothing, but Yang Xinxin looked at him with admiration and said, easy for you to say, you're a powerhouse now. Zhang Yi had swallowed the abilities of a bunch of tough folks, like Ling Feng from the Xishan base. No one knew how strong Zhang Yi really was, but Zhang Yi knew, during the Battle of the 5 Armies, he wasn't even trying that hard. Snow worship cult. Zhang Yi patted his leg and whispered the name, staring out the window. Gotta watch those guys. As he said that, Zhang Yi's eyes went wide. Out in the snowstorm, figures were appearing on the horizon, slowly coming this way. Chapter 424 Erosion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the scene, Zhang Yi was stunned. He blinked, thinking he was seeing things. How could so many people be out here in this freezing weather? There were people everywhere. As far as the eye could see. Even the Battle of the 5 Armies didn't have this many soldiers. He stared harder, realizing it wasn't his imagination, it really was a huge crowd of shadowy figures moving toward them. Zhang Yi shot up from the sofa. Xiao AI, sound the alarm. Everyone to the living room, gear up. He ripped off his pajamas and threw on his combat uniform. Xiao AI immediately blared the alarm, alerting everyone in the shelter. They were used to comfort, but the alarm jolted them into action. They scrambled into their clothes and rushed to the living room. Yang Xinxin looked at him, surprised. What's going on? Zhang Yi finished buckling his combat gear, grabbed his golden desert eagle, and pointed out the window. Take a good look out there. Tell me what you see. Yang Xinshin maneuvered her wheelchair to the window. She squinted, scanning the horizon until she spotted the mass of shadowy figures, her face drained of color. What? How are there so many people? Is it an attack? Did the other groups team up? That everyone piled into the living room. Uncle Yu came over, concerned. Zhang Yi, what's happening? Are we under attack? Zhang Yi grabbed the telescope and peered through it. What he saw sent a shiver down his spine. These weren't people. It was a horde of corpses shuffling towards them. They were dressed in tattered clothes, their bodies covered in purple blotches. Some of them had faces that were rotting away, but thanks to the extreme cold, they hadn't decayed completely into skeletons. Zombies, it's really happening. Zhang Yi gasped. Everyone exchanged shocked looks, grabbing binoculars to see for themselves. There was no mistaking it. The approaching figures were zombies. Corpses. Then, Liang Yu spoke up. Could those be from the Shishan base? Zhang Yi frowned. What makes you say that? Liang Yu pointed. Look closer. Some of them are wearing Shishan base uniforms. Zhang Yi focused his telescope. Sure enough, some of the zombies were wearing what looked like military uniforms. Probably people from Shishan, especially the civilians in the Fourth Life warehouse. Liang Yu said grimly. Zhang Yi lowered the telescope. He was surprised, but starting to regain his composure. It's weird, isn't it? An ice age, and these things are still moving. Zhou Qier said calmly, could be some kind of virus that keeps them going. Zhang Yi nodded. Well, they're just zombies. They look freaky, but basically they're just disease vectors. No big deal. He put on his helmet, pulled a rifle from his storage space, and slung it over his shoulder. Let's go put these guys out of their misery. Remember, headshots are the only way to kill them. Everyone seemed to snap out of it. Right, they were just zombies. Nothing to be scared of. They had powerful weapons, complete gear. Zhang Yi and the others could take out these zombies like swatting flies, no danger. Just a zombie-killing game. Even Lu Karen bounced up to Zhang Yi, begging. Gimme a gun, brother. Let me shoot. Zhang Yi considered it, then handed her a rifle. Stick close to me. And be careful where you're shooting, you hear? Don't hit any of us. Yay! This is gonna be awesome. Lu Karen happily put on a combat uniform and followed Zhang Yi and the others outside, brandishing her rifle. He decided to leave Hua Hua inside, mostly because he was afraid she'd eat something gross and get sick. Zhou Qier and the others were still a little squeamish about the zombies, afraid of getting splattered with gore, so they stayed inside. They pulled up a couple of chairs, ready to snack on sunflower seeds and watch Zhang Yi and the others kick some zombie. But Zhang Yi and the group headed out the door, looking relaxed. They'd been training hard lately, and hadn't had a chance to see if it was paying off. Time to blow off some steam on live targets. Uncle Yu transformed into his giant form, grabbed a huge construction shovel, and charged ahead. Zhang Yi shouted, Uncle Yu, a gun's faster. Uncle Yu roared with laughter. Nah, we don't need M. Gotta save the bullets. Liang Yu had a gleam in his eyes. He unsheathed his Tang Dao and sprinted forward. The three more methodical people hung back, picking off targets with their rifles. Zhang Yi was calm and collected. Fatty Su and Lu Karen were just practicing their marksmanship. Zhang Yi raised his rifle and fired. No special powers, just a clean, precise shot. A zombie dropped, a neat hole in its head. Seeing that, Lu Karen and Fatty Su excitedly raised their rifles. Lu Karen grinned at Fatty Su. Let's see who can kill more zombies. Fatty Su chuckled. I'm gonna win. I was shooting a month before you. The two of them started blasting away, but then, Zhang Yi noticed something was off. The zombie he'd shot in the head was slowly getting back up. Was it too frozen? Did the bullet not go all the way through? No way. Even a frozen zombie is still flesh and blood. A bullet's gotta penetrate. He was still puzzled when the zombie stood up. There was a gaping black hole in its head, But no blood was flowing out. It stared in the direction of the shelter as Uncle Yu and Liang Yu charged. Suddenly, the zombie horde, which had seemed sluggish and numb, underwent a radical change. Aergrg. They howled from their throats, like wild dogs raised on human remains in mass graves. The next moment, thousands of zombies across the snowfield let out the same terrifying roar and surged toward Liang Yu and Uncle Yu. Their earlier sluggishness was gone. Now they were running as fast as hounds. Countless ants seemed to be crawling in their bloodshot eyes, making them burn with an unholy intensity. Chapter 425 Weird. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Nobody saw this coming. These zombies, who seemed slow and lifeless, suddenly changed. They exploded with surprising speed, instantly surrounding Uncle Yu and Liang Yu. Zhang Yi was too slow to react. The zombies swarmed them, a dense mass, and their roars sent shivers down your spine. Shit! Uncle Yu yelled, shocked and angry. He swung his engineer's shovel, knocking down a dozen zombies and even cleaving 3 in half. These zombies were stiff and tough. They weren't like the rotting ones you see on TV, easy to destroy. Luckily, Uncle Yu and Liang Yu were enhanced, with serious close combat skills. Even surrounded by a horde, they could hold their own. Liang Yu wielded his tang sword, its blade flashing like cold moonlight. The zombie bodies, as tough as steel, were sliced through cleanly. But this was too slow. The zombies were too many. If they ran out of energy, they'd be eaten alive for sure. No one saw this coming. Just moments before, Zhang Yi and the others thought of zombies like they were in TV shows, the kind that moves slowly and is as fragile as mud. Even a kid with a stick could take them down. These were nothing like that. They were stronger, meaner, faster, and nearly impossible to kill. How do you kill something that won't die even with a headshot? Zhang Yi looked at the body on the ground, broken in pieces, still trying to crawl toward Uncle Yu and Liang Yu. A chill ran down his spine. What the hell are these things, and why can't we kill them? Fatty Sue and Lu Karen were terrified, their faces pale. They started shooting, trying to take down zombies and help Uncle Yu and Liang Yu, but instead of killing them, the gunfire drew their attention. The massive horde of corpses split into a wave and surged toward Zhang Yi and the 2 others. Zhang Yi didn't flinch. If headshots didn't work, guns were useless. He holstered his pistol and drew a quadrilateral in the air with his hands. A huge dimensional gate appeared in front of them. The zombies were fast, like Olympic sprinters, but before they reached Zhang Yi, they stumbled, falling one by one into the dimensional gate. Fatty Sue and Lu Karen sighed in relief. Awesome. Thank God for the boss's dimensional gate. We can use this to take out all these brain-dead zombies. But as soon as Fatty Sue finished speaking, the zombies rushing forward stopped just before the gate. Zhang Yi frowned, realizing things weren't so simple. Zombies are mutated corpses. They shouldn't be smart, but they could sense danger and stop. It didn't make sense. There were only 2 possibilities. First, they weren't dead but some other kind of intelligent creature. Second, someone was secretly controlling them. The second option seemed more likely. Someone controlling zombies? Like before, with the soldiers' bodies disappearing? If that's the case, it all clicks into place. In that case, killing the controller would solve the problem, but looking at the thousands of zombies packed in front of him, Zhang Yi felt a headache coming on. Finding the controller in that crowd was like finding a needle in a haystack. So, Zhang Yi decided on a different, easier approach. With a wave of his hand, a heavy tank materialized on the snow, sinking slightly into the ground. Uncle Yu, Liang Yu, listen up. When I count to 3, jump as high as you can. Zhang Yi climbed into the tank and started loading shells. He wasn't a great driver, but Uncle Yu had shown him how to fire. Uncle Yu and Liang Yu immediately understood. Got it. Zhang Yi loaded the shells and started counting down. 3, 2, 1. At 1, Uncle Yu and Liang Yu fought hard to clear the zombies around them and then leaped into the air. Both were enhanced, with incredible strength. They jumped more than 30 feet high. The tank's cannon roared. Boom! A shell exploded among the corpses, like a flower blooming, blasting hundreds of zombies into pieces. Limbs and body parts flew everywhere. The swarm scattered, giving Zhang Yi and Uncle Yu a chance to breathe and retreat toward the shelter. The zombies pursued them. Their speed was terrifying, and they were about to overwhelm them, but driven by their instinct to hunt the living, they bunched up right in front of the tank. Zhang Yi loaded another shell and fired. This shot blew away hundreds more zombies. Still, many tried to attack from the sides. Lu Karen was so scared his legs went weak. Luckily, Zhang Yi and Uncle Yu stood in front, dealing with the stragglers. Chopping off their heads didn't stop them, so the two of them started destroying their torsos or cutting off their legs. Zhang Yi opened the tank and climbed out. Silently, he pulled out a strange-looking device from another dimension. Two large metal canisters connected by pipes to a long nozzle. It looked like a machine for spraying pesticides. This was a flamethrower, taken from the Shishan base, and Zhang Yi had never used it. It had a short range and was awkward to carry, but against these unkillable zombies, it would be perfect. Zhang Yi lay down, braced the flamethrower, and a 30-foot-long jet of fire erupted. Even in the freezing cold, the flamethrower was hot enough for the zombies to feel it. Their clothes ignited, and their bodies burst into flames. Because they were packed so tightly, the flames spread fast. Zhang Yi was worried the zombies would still attack even on fire, but they seemed to lose control, their limbs flailing wildly. Weird howls came from their throats, and their bodies crackled and hissed like boiling fat. Just when everyone was bracing for a fight, the zombies turned and ran. Chapter 426 Unknown. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thousands of zombies spun around and hauled ass in the opposite direction of the shelter. Zhang Yi and the others were left speechless. Whoever heard of zombies strategically retreating out of fear? Zhang Yi pushed himself up off the ground, watching the zombies disappear with wide eyes. Okay, so we know one thing, somebody is pulling the strings here. When they realized things weren't going their way, they booked it to save their zombie army. Liang Yu frowned, then shook his head. I can't wrap my head around how anyone could control thousands of zombies at once. Plus, these things are frozen solid, you can't even kill them by chopping off their heads. With that kind of power, they could be king of Tianhai city. I mean, the city's basically just one giant corpse party these days. Zhang Yi stared at the pile of broken, burned zombie remains on the ground, some still twitching, just stumps and bits of arms, but still kicking, like an earthworm cut in half a dozen places, impossible to kill. The thought of facing more of these things gave Zhang Yi a pounding headache. We gotta figure out what these things are, who's controlling them, and how. Otherwise, Tianhai city's never gonna catch a break. Zhang Yi walked over and tried to stash a few zombie bits in his personal storage space. It worked without a hitch, proving they were, in fact, dead, but still moving, which was beyond bizarre. Could there be some backwoods voodoo going on here? Am I being close-minded by dismissing this as some kind of metaphysical mumbo-jumbo? Zhang Yi was seriously losing it. He tossed the flamethrower to Fatty Sue. Burn all this garbage. At least we know fire works. This was true for everyone. No one could explain what they just witnessed. Maybe ever since those corpses vanished from the battlefield, a lingering doubt had wormed its way into everyone's mind. Now, with this zombie outbreak, they couldn't afford to ignore it any longer. Even though they'd fought off the horde, everyone's faces wore a look of confusion. Back at the shelter, Zhou Qi, Yang Mi, and the others were clearly shaken up. Their pale faces told the whole story. I mean, who's ever seen zombies more vicious than a junkyard dog? Or that many of them? If Zhang Yi and the crew hadn't been there, even the best-equipped soldiers would have been ripped to shreds. Is this legit a haunting? Yang Mi clutched her chest, her eyes wide with fear. Zhou Haimei, the resident wise elder, frowned slightly. Hard to say. Better safe than sorry. Always good to keep an open mind when it comes to the weird stuff. As a veteran actress, Zhou Haimei had always put stock in fate and the supernatural. Word had it that she was a nobody until she changed her name with some industry guru's help. Some things just can't be explained by science. Zhang Yi didn't say a word. He just plopped down on the couch and began to retrace the recent oddities. These thousands of zombies came from the Shishan base. When he, Fatty Sue, and Uncle Yu went to Shishan base to scavenge supplies. They all felt an unsettling vibe in the air, but they brushed it off as nerves and didn't think much of it. He'd even sealed off the Shishan base entrance before leaving just for some peace of mind. Plus, not long ago, the bodies of those soldiers went missing and ended up in the Tsitsu subway station. Something bigger was at play. Someone is controlling those bodies. While the women were chattering on about the possibility of ghosts, Zhang Yi dropped his theory. These zombies knew how to avoid my dimensional storage and how to escape. That's a sign of intelligence. So, there must be someone who can control corpses and is coming after us. Zhang Yi's logic clicked, and everyone nodded, but Zhou Qier was still confused. But why would they attack us? We haven't done anything to anyone. The only people who've got it in for us are Chaoyu base and Yangqing base. But if they had this kind of power, wouldn't they have used it in that battle? Why wait until now? Zhang Yi shook his head. It's too new, too easy to be sure. For now, let's hole up here. This place is safe, zombies alone can't break through. Let's just sit tight and see what happens. As he said this, Zhang Yi turned to Yang Xinxin. Xinxin, keep tabs on the other groups. See if this is happening to anyone else in Tianhai city. Yang Xinxin nodded. Got it. I'm on it. Zhang Yi turned to Uncle Yu and Liang Yu. Uncle Yu, Liang Yu, check yourselves for scratches. If there's a zombie virus going around, we need to be careful. As soon as Zhang Yi finished, everyone took a step back from Uncle Yu and Liang Yu. After all, every zombie movie has the same plot. People bitten or scratched by zombies get infected. Uncle Yu and Liang Yu rolled their eyes but knew Zhang Yi was just being responsible. Alright, we'll cooperate. Zhang Yi smiled and threw up his hands. Relax, I'm not saying you're infected, just being cautious. In reality, they were wearing bulletproof combat uniforms, so the zombies likely didn't get through. Zhang Yi was just covering all his bases. He and Zhou Qier dragged Uncle Yu and Liang Yu off to check them over. No wounds. Okay, all clear. You guys are free to go. Zhang Yi said to Uncle Yu and Liang Yu with a smile. Once they were gone, only Zhang Yi and Zhou Qier were left in the infirmary. Zhang Yi looked at Zhou Qier, his tone more serious. Kur, I need you to do something for me. Zhou Qier knew what he was getting at. You want me to study the zombies? Zhang Yi nodded. I need to figure out if these things actually carry a virus, or if some alien is controlling them with superpowers. If it's a virus, it's gonna be a disaster for the whole city. No, it could spread across the country, even the world. But if it's the latter? Zhang Yi's expression darkened. He took a deep breath. That means there's some super scary, unknown force lurking in Tianhai city. Zhou Qier looked worried and hugged Zhang Yi from behind. Either way, it's terrifying. Zhang Yi squeezed her hand and smiled. Don't sweat it too much. We don't have the bandwidth to worry about everyone else. We need to protect ourselves. As long as the shelter is safe, we're all good. Zhou Qier nodded. He had a point, worrying wouldn't do them any good. Zhang Yi pulled out a piece of zombie flesh from his personal storage space and put it on the workbench. It was still squirming, like a severed earthworm tail. Even though it showed signs of freezing, it still seemed alive. Even Zhou Qier, who'd seen it all, was floored. It's incredible. Zhang Yi cautioned, be careful. We still don't know if it's a virus, or how contagious it is. Liang Yu smiled. Don't worry. Remember what I do? She expertly picked up the tweezers, put the piece of meat into the tray, and covered it with a glass. I need time to figure this out. No rush. We've got time. If this is all there is to it, we can handle it. Zhou Qier sighed. True. After all, we're the most badass crew in Tianhai city. It's just, if this zombie thing hit some of the other groups, especially cults like the Snow Worshippers, it could get ugly fast. Chapter 427, Surprise Changes in Tianhai City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just like Zhang Yi thought, the zombie outbreak wasn't targeting them, it was a full-blown citywide disaster in Tianhai City. Yangqing Base, Chaoyu Base, and Qingwei Base all found themselves under attack by massive zombie hordes that seemed to materialize out of thin air. The soldiers were totally unprepared for this kind of enemy. At first, they figured a headshot would do the trick, but even with their brains splattered, the zombies kept coming, ripping heads off with their claws. These weren't your slow, shuffling TV zombies. They were faster and stronger than any normal person. The zombie wave crashed against the defenses, and the first line of defense crumbled almost instantly. There were just too many zombies, and they were too damn hard to kill. The bases took heavy casualties right off the bat, but these bases weren't pushovers. After the initial panic, the leadership and the superpowered captains quickly organized a counterattack. At Yangqing Base, Xiao Honglian quickly figured out the zombies' weakness. Fire. She climbed a tall furnace tower and unleashed a dragon of flame with high-purity alcohol, incinerating the zombies like bugs under a flamethrower. Still, there were just so many of them. Zhang Yi's shelter had faced thousands of zombies, but these bases, located at the heart of each district, were dealing with numbers that were off the charts. Xiao Honglian, eyebrows raised, pushed her purgatory furnace ability to the limit. A man carrying a heavy iron box approached her. The box was full of the highest purity alcohol. Xiao Honglian gulped it down, then unleashed wave after wave of fire, carving trenches into the earth like a scythe. After a brutal fight and countless kills, they managed to stem the tide of the attack. What the hell are these things? They're not just regular zombies. We need to figure out where they came from and if someone's pulling the strings. Xiao Honglian was furious, seeing the refinery she'd worked so hard to build turned into a corpse-strewn mess. Meanwhile, at Qingwei Base, Xingtian activated his abilities and led his 500 elite soldiers in a head-on charge. Blessed with his powers, they became walking tanks. Offense and defense rolled into one. They didn't even need guns, relying instead on huge battle axes, hammers, and iron rods to go toe-to-toe with the undead. This method of combat proved more effective than firearms. They smashed the frozen corpses into pieces, and at Chaoyu Base, they were using the main guns of the ships docked in the deep sea to bombard the zombie hordes. Despite the ferocity of the zombie swarm, they couldn't inflict a truly crippling blow on these major powers. After all, they had firepower and plenty of superpowered fighters on their side. Where did these things even come from? Could some other faction in Tianhai City be breeding them? Or, are there underground forces we've never even discovered? Wei Dinghai frowned, voicing his concerns. Zhang Yi and the three major bases handled the initial crisis relatively well. They took some losses, but nothing they couldn't handle. But things were about to go south in a big way for the snow-worshipping sect. They'd been recruiting like crazy for the past month, and their numbers had exploded. In the heart of their territory in Tianfeng district, they had tens of thousands of believers packed together. Over 7% of them were non-combatants with no weapons. This crowd was a zombie magnet. That night, after prayers, the members of the snow-worshipping sect headed back to their tents to rest. They crammed into a few closed buildings to keep warm. In the evening, they lit a fire and shared the canned food they'd scavenged and the red holy fruits they picked from the holy tree. Among them were the residents of Yuelu community who'd come with Li Jian. Li Jian's son, Li Kale, was stoked about his new life with the snow-worshipping sect. He could finally make some friends. In just a few days, he'd hit it off with Su Bebe, a girl his age from next door. Even with the world ending, people still craved connection. They were both teenagers, and they quickly fell for each other. It was first love in the apocalypse. They lived close by, and with nothing much to do besides pray, they spent every day together. Li Kale dug out his favorite books. Su Bebe brought her oil paintings to share. At their innocent age, their relationship was pure. Li Kale secretly vowed that after the world ended, he would marry Su Bebe and they would spend their lives together. Unseen, pairs of green eyes watched from the darkness. The night watchman noticed shadowy figures lurking. It was too dark to make out the details, but something was off about these figures. The watchman figured they were just survivors looking for a safe haven. Hey! Where are you coming from? Need some help? But as they got closer, they realized what they were dealing with. The purple skin, the the blank stares, the horrific wounds, these weren't living people. Ah! Freaks, monsters, that the watchman screamed in terror. That's when the zombies attacked. Where there was fire, there were living people, and the zombies were like moths to a flame, but this time, they weren't bringing about their own destruction, but death to the unprepared living in the camp. The watchman opened fire, gunshots exploded in the night, but the zombies didn't even flinch. Even with their heads riddled with bullets, they still lunged, biting anything that moved. What? Help me, help me! Screams of terror echoed throughout the camp, piercing the night. The noise finally woke everyone up, but by the time they realized what was happening, the guards, though devoted, were no match for the zombies. The snow-worshipping sect was devoted to their faith and not afraid of death, but these zombies were also not afraid of death, and they were practically impossible to kill. They were far stronger than normal people, with their brains no longer holding them back. They unleashed their full physical strength. In the darkness, a dense army of zombies descended upon the snow-worshipping cult camp, launching a terrifying assault. Hundreds of congregants were killed almost instantly. Some guards, realizing what they were dealing with, aimed for the head in terror, but the attack didn't slow the zombies down. Instead, the noise just drew more of them, tearing the guards to pieces. A cry of despair rose from the snow-worshipping cult camp. The guards fell quickly, and the rest of the believers were still asleep, unable to mount any effective defense. When the powerful zombies burst into the camp, they were like ravenous thugs bursting into a cafeteria after 3 days of starvation. Dinner time. Chapter 428 New Storm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The snow worship sect had exploded in size over the past few months, suddenly boasting tens of thousands of members. They were all crammed into buildings near St. John's Cathedral. To conserve heat, they packed dozens of people into single rooms, creating incredibly dense living conditions. This overcrowding became a death trap when the zombies attacked, leaving them nowhere to escape. Zombies flooded onto the floor where Mikhail and Sue Bebe were. They could sense the living through the dimly lit hallways, even if they couldn't see clearly. Boom! Boom! Doors crashed open, and zombies surged in, tearing into anyone they could reach. Screams erupted as members panicked, some fainting in terror, but none could escape being devoured. Some desperately jumped from the upper floors, only to find more zombies waiting with open mouths below. Talk about meat falling from the sky. Mikhail was frozen in fear, but seeing how terrified Sue Bebe was, he found some courage, grabbed her hand, and pulled her toward the stairs. Zombies were mindless, driven only to kill the living. Heading for the roof seemed like the only option. We have to find my parents. Mikhail dragged Sue Bebe out of their room, spotting his parents frantically searching for him. Li Jian and Zhang Jianfang visibly relaxed when they saw their son was safe. They noticed Mikhail holding Sue Bebe's hand tightly, but didn't comment. Even in the apocalypse, they respected their son's right to find love. It was a basic human instinct, the hope for the future. Go, let's get to the roof. Li Jian and Zhang Jianfang positioned themselves to protect the kids as they raced up the stairs. A horde of zombies followed, their throats emitting eerie, unsettling groans. But then, 2 figures stepped in front of them, blocking the way. They were strangers, tasked by Zhang Yi himself to protect Li Jian's family. One of them, without a word, slammed his fist into the wall beside him, then ripped it apart, creating a gaping hole. The debris formed a barrier, halting the zombies and forcing them to turn back, seeking easier prey. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. Blocked before, they could gorge here. Screams echoed through the building, mingled with the sounds of tearing flesh and crunching bones. The snow worship sect's sanctuary had become a hell on earth, but the leadership of the snow worship sect was already organizing a response. Zombies had gathered around St. John's Cathedral. Inside, a large number of believers were gathered, especially the inner circle of the cult. Drawn by the scent of the living, the zombies acted like sharks smelling blood. Their eyes glowed red as they tried to break in. Suddenly, the church doors swung open, an invisible force exploded outward, sending dozens of zombies flying backward. High Priest Zhang Yi emerged, followed by a dozen strangers. The horrific scene before them widened everyone's eyes. No one could help being shocked by these unknown creatures. Zombies were something for movies, things that happened on TV. Seeing them now, here, how could anyone stay calm? Zhang Yi briefly showed concern but regained his composure and began issuing orders to rally the defenders. Tong Zhan, Gung Lei, you two stay inside the church, no matter what. Protect the leader and the believers inside. Everyone else, with me. We're taking down these zombies. Under Zhang Yixian's command, the snow worship sect began to pull itself together and fight back. The powerful strangers shifted the battle in their favor. The church members, who were just beaten down a few moments earlier, began to recover and pick up whatever they could use as weapons. Shoo! A dozen flashes cut through the air, a dozen zombie heads hit the ground. Han Chang activated his animal form, becoming a small creature with a white stripe down its back, displaying sharp teeth and claws. Han Chang's animal form was a honey badger, the legendary honey badger don't care. Following what he'd seen on TV, he decapitated more than a dozen zombies, expecting them to drop for good, but they just swayed a bit, slowed down a little, and kept coming at him. Ha! That's not supposed to happen. Han Chang was surprised, but as a honey badger, he had no fear. Then I'll just have to finish you off. Moments later, more flashes flew by, and the zombies were hacked into pieces, still twitching on the ground. Disgusting. What the hell is this? Han Chang made a face. The zombies were stronger than average people, but they were still far from a match for someone like him, but they just wouldn't die, and there were so many of them that even a powered stranger could get overrun. The defense was proving difficult, there were just too many zombies. And even with tens of thousands of snow worshippers, a dozen strangers weren't nearly enough to protect them all, so, most of the time, the strangers could only rush to the worst hotspots and try to eliminate as many zombies as possible. The ordinary church members were left to fend for themselves and their families. They fought for over half an hour, the ground was soaked with blood, body parts everywhere, and countless corpses littered the scene. It was impossible to tell who was a zombie and who was a snow worshipper. Only when the zombies finally retreated into the darkness did everyone breathe a sigh of relief, but the terror lingered in their hearts. What were those things? Han Chang shoved his hands in his pockets, his face grim as he surveyed the carnage. He could hear the believers crying. Who knew how many had died in the battle or how many had lost their families? When they first came to the snow worship sect, they believed it would protect them, that it was a safe haven in the apocalypse. Han Chang felt a pang of pain and walked over to Zhang Yi, looking troubled. The strangers were all gathered together, exhausted after the fight. Zhang Yi wore his usual expressionless mask as he directed the survivors to clear the battlefield. Move the bodies to that abandoned building. Check for injuries. These zombies are weird and might carry some kind of virus. Isolate anyone who's been bitten for observation. Increase security tonight. Strong adults should patrol the perimeter. The zombies are likely to return. Exhausted, the others knew that it wasn't the time to relax, so they did what they were told. Han Chang walked up to Zhang Yi, frowned and said, "Those things are outrageous. You can't kill them. And they know how to retreat. They're not the brainless zombies you see on TV." Zhang Yi glanced at Han Chang, frowning too. "We need to investigate this. Otherwise, the snow worship sect's overcrowding will make us a constant target. I just don't know if another group is behind this." Han Chang, looking defeated, hissed, "If someone did this on purpose, I will make them pay." That the snow worship sect had gotten much stronger since then with many more believers and strangers. They had nothing to fear. Han Chang looked for a chance to destroy the group that had bullied them before. But Zhang Yi patted him on the shoulder. "Calm down. This is just a guess. We have to protect the survivors first." Han Chang looked at the ground and nodded slowly, saying, "You're right." He turned and left to help with the aftermath. Zhang Yi stood in the middle of the battlefield, staring into the distance. He didn't know if a powerful enemy was watching from the darkness, so his expression was serious and intense. Is another storm coming? Inside a residential building after the zombie attack, Li Jian cautiously peered out the window. When he was sure it was safe, he breathed a sigh of relief. It's finally over. Zhang Jianfang joined him, and they held each other tightly. Nearby, Li Kale held Su Bei's hand, refusing to let go. They looked at each other, their eyes full of love. Zhang Jianfang and Li Jian exchanged knowing glances. Zhang Jianfang smiled, and said, "My son has grown up. He has fallen in love. Good for him." The couple liked Su Bei. Nobody cared about family background anymore. The most important thing was survival. Su Bei's family was all dead, and she had survived alone. She had the skills needed to stay alive. If she wanted to join the Li family, Zhang Jianfang would be okay with it, but a worried expression flickered in Li Jian's eyes. "I just hope this doesn't cause problems," he said quietly, hoping his son and Su Bei wouldn't hear. Zhang Jianfang looked at him curiously. "What do you mean?" Li Jian thought for a moment and then said, "Did you know that new boys who join the snow worship sect are taken care of?" Zhang Jianfang flinched. Of course, she knew about it. She had been worried that Li Kale would be treated that way. Fortunately, Li Jian had special powers, and Yuan Kongye and the other leaders seemed to value Li Jian. Li Kale had avoided that fate so far, but the ritual and whether Li Kale could escape it weighed on the couple. Seeing her worried husband, Zhang Jianfang could only hold him tight, resting her head against his chest and saying, "Everything will be okay. We'll stay together and be happy." Chapter 429. They are here again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a single day, every major power in Tianhai city got slammed by zombie hordes. Zhang Yi got off the lightest, no casualties. After all, his group was small and didn't have to worry about protecting ordinary folks. Plus, with the firepower they had, taking down zombies was a piece of cake. The other groups weren't so lucky. They all lost some people, one way or another, especially the snow worship cult. Later counts showed they lost over 1,000 people to the zombies in that one attack. Over 800 more got bit or scratched. They locked those people up together, the doors sealed tight, with two superpowered dudes standing guard. They were scared of them turning into zombies. The next day, the nervous factions started talking to each other. Zhang Yi called his old buddy Xing Tian to get the scoop. "What? Zombies hit you guys too?" "Damn it, we got hit yesterday, lost over 100. Where did these things come from?" "Some kind of bioweapon gone wrong." Hearing the Qingpei base got hit too, Zhang Yi felt a little better. At least it wasn't just them being targeted. Nobody knows for sure. These zombies are weird. You can chop their heads off and they still keep coming. Seems like someone's pulling the strings. Zhang Yi frowned, a little troubled. "Hearing you say that makes me think this is bigger than we thought. We're over 60 miles apart, and we both got hit. If someone's really controlling these zombies, it's gotta be more than one person." Xing Tian's brow furrowed, and he pinched the bridge of his nose. "You think there's some scary group in Tianhai city that can control the dead? But, if that's true, wouldn't they be unstoppable? Over 10 million people died in Tianhai city. We'd be overrun by corpses alone. Take your shelter, for example. No matter how strong it is, it couldn't hold up if it was getting swarmed every day." That's exactly what Zhang Yi was worried about. The unknown enemy is always the scariest. Zhang Yi still didn't know anything about these zombies or who might be controlling them. "Let's take it one step at a time. Get in touch with the other groups, see if they got hit too." Actually, they didn't need to. The other three groups were already thinking the same thing. Some even suspected the other factions were behind the zombie attacks. They all started swapping stories and figured out everyone was in the same boat. If someone could really control a zombie horde this big, the 5 armies showdown wouldn't have been like that. Everyone agreed. This zombie outbreak across Tianhai city had to be from some 6th player operating underground. It was way more than just some biohazard. Once they ruled out the 5 factions being involved, they knew they were on their own. After all, these 5 weren't exactly partners. More like rivals, with plenty of bad blood. Even if they tried to team up, it wouldn't help much. First, they barely had any intel. Second, if anyone knew anything about the zombies, they weren't about to share. Right now, everyone was just hoping to survive and secretly hoping the zombies wiped out the competition. Zhang Yi was definitely chilling the most. They were under the least pressure, and their shelter was strong enough to shrug off a zombie attack. but everyone at the shelter was worried about one thing. This time, it was thousands of zombies. What about next time? Tens of thousands. The death toll in Tianhai City was over 10 million, pushing 20 million. If they all turned into zombies, even with their shelter, Zhang Yi and his crew couldn't hold out forever. Guess we'll just have to see what happens. That's what Zhang Yi thought, anyway. But the very next day, another wave of zombies showed up outside the shelter. Zhang Yi sighed. Let's go. He, Uncle Yu, and Fatty Sue suited up and headed out to fight. Hua tagged along this time, but Zhang Yi made sure to warn her not to bite the zombies, just in case they were poisonous or infectious. Hua nodded, looking like she understood perfectly. 4 people and 1 beast went out to deal with the horde. Remembering last time, Uncle Yu and Liang Yu didn't rush in. Liang Yu and Hua were in charge of picking off the zombies that got too close. Fatty Sue used his ice powers to slow them down. Zhang Yi and Uncle Yu torched the rest with flamethrowers. Blizzard. Fatty Sue threw his hands up, and a snowstorm swept over thousands of zombies. It didn't do much damage, but it covered a huge area. After his talk with Zhang Yi, Fatty Sue finally understood how to use his powers. His ability wasn't the strongest, so he needed to get creative. Most of the time, he was playing support. Sure enough, the blizzard slowed the zombies down and messed with their sense of direction. Zhang Yi's eyes narrowed. Just like I thought, someone's controlling these zombies. When their vision gets blocked, they don't know where to go. Uncle Yu was already firing up his flamethrower, ready to barbecue some zombies. A 30-foot fire blast engulfed a group of zombies, turning them into charred kebabs. Zhang Yi moved to the side and crisscrossed his fire with Uncle Yu's. The crossfire was super effective, and soon the zombies were engulfed in a raging inferno. The burning zombies let out weird, gurgling screams and quickly lost their ability to move. Behind the shelter's glass windows, Zhou Qier took notes in a notebook. Looks like I was right. The virus in the zombies likes the cold but can't stand the heat. Burning them messes them up and stops them from moving. Today, the zombie horde started to retreat after losing about half their numbers. Zhang Yi and the others pressed their advantage, but the zombies scattered and booked it in every direction. They were surprisingly fast, so even if they caught up and took out a few hundred, plenty still got away. Just like yesterday, they killed some, and some escaped. Something still doesn't feel right. Zhang Yi frowned, a sense of unease creeping into his gut. Even though taking care of the zombie wave wasn't too hard today, some zombies always got away. There was something subtle about that he couldn't quite put his finger on.